you have to have a job that will allow you to travel the world?
Oh, he does. He works at Meta. Have you seen these videos where it's like a day in the life of my job at Meta?
Oh my
And they're just like ordering lattes and going to bar class and then walking their Pomeranian. And it's like, what do you do at Meta?
Yeah. Wow. Maybe we're doing the wrong thing here.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the difference between U.S. real estate agents and U.K. real estate agents and how buyers and sellers interact with those agents, because there are some key differences that we need to get into.
Cool.
And we're going to talk about the 25 best places for a second home in 2023. Vacation homes, second homes, vacation rental homes, the talk of the town. So we will see those 25 towns that maybe you should be taking a look at. Okay. And then we're also going to get into in or out, whether Shawn Battle is in or out on 3 different houses throughout the world, on land and possibly on sea. At sea.
Ooh.
Not in sea, at sea.
All right.
All right, well, let's start with the differences between the UK and the United States, and an article from Evening Standard, which I have never heard of, so I can only assume it's a UK publication, which is why I have never heard of it. The article says 6 things buyers should never do when dealing with an estate agent. Now, I was reading this article a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was just a normal American article, like for United States. And the first thing you should not do, never do this, Shawn, do not give them your real email address. Then when I read this, I was like, okay, this is clearly not like a United States article, Shawn. So let me list off a couple of these, and then you can share your thoughts. So do not give the estate agent your real email address. Do not bother speaking with the recommended mortgage broker, and do not use the recommended conveyancing service, the title company. Now, key difference in the UK is that there are no buyer's agents. So this article is, 6 things buyers should never do when dealing with the listing agent. So Shawn, when you see something like this, what are your thoughts in this sort of advice for buyers with the listing agent?
Ding, ding, ding. This is why you shouldn't get rid of buyer agency, in my opinion, right? I mean, clear differences between the United States and the UK. Here we have buyer agency, meaning we are going to represent you as buyers, and we're going to give recommendations. Now, even here, you could see why you might not trust or take everything that a listing agent says, because when they're talking to the public, you should use this guy, you should use... Who's it really benefiting, right? Who is it benefiting? And we could go into that for so many reasons and so far, but it seems like there might be a different standard in the UK than there is here. Here we as real estate agents, as realtors, we have to follow a code of conduct, and we have to be fair to everybody and treat everybody fairly. Whereas maybe in the UK, they don't have to follow this. They don't have to, especially if you say don't give them your real email address. I mean, how are you communicating over there?
Well, they're saying, use a disposable, like a burner email address that you get rid of at the end of the transaction.
Because they're just going to pound you with email after that, probably.
Well, there's a little button. You just click do not describe or unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Do not describe. Unsubscribe. Also don't recommend speaking with their mortgage broker. Don't recommend speaking with their title company. They're saying when they're not making money from selling houses, they can make money from selling you title service. That's a big difference in the United States. We have this little thing called RESPA, which doesn't allow real estate agents to receive kickbacks from money from mortgages and title companies. A couple other of the 6 items: don't downplay your budget, don't accept what they say about other interest or offers they have received, and don't worry what they think. The big one for me is don't accept what they say about other interest or offers they have received, because in America, a lot of my clients are like, well, do they really have that offer? What's stopping them from lying? And, the answer is like technically nothing. I mean, sure, you're a part of the realtor code and there's a code of ethics, but if someone calls me and say, hey, I'm definitely 100% writing an offer, I'll have it to you by 6 p.m. And then another person calls and says, hey, do you have any offers on this? Say, well, I have, a really strong offer coming in at 6 p.m. Am I lying? And that offer never comes in. Like, is that lying? Like, so I think there's, it can go either way on what the agent is saying about offers received.
Yeah, I mean, and this happens a lot, and I always take it that the listing agent is being truthful with me, and maybe I'm gullible, but I think that most people are going to be like me, and I follow a strict code, and just like Matt does, we follow a code that says that, hey, we're not lying about this stuff. This is true. And what I'll say is, you never know when that second offer is going to come in. Doesn't matter what type of market you're in. This just happened to me. Actually, I just closed a deal today, and to give you kind of a background, we went after another unit and we lowballed it, right? We lowballed this unit because I felt like the value wasn't there. It just wasn't. It was overpriced. And that place is still on the market. We went to settlement today on another one that we initially wrote an offer and we came in low. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, we got a second offer. I'm like, oh my gosh, why does this always happen right when you're like, it's a slower market, you should be getting a really good deal. And then all of a sudden another offer comes in. What I ended up doing was not changing the offer. We didn't change the offer at all. We kept it as low as we did. And I said, hey, just counter us if you can. We're a really strong buyer. Just come back. And that's what we did. We waited for that counter. Thankfully, we got it. That was a risk. But thankfully, we got the counter and we took it. Still got it under ask. But I mean, were they being truthful? I never saw proof of the second offer. But still got it under ask. And actually, my client is super happy. So
how did you know that your offer was stronger than the other offer?
I didn't. I assumed it was stronger because I had a little bit of an indication that there was originally this buyer had a certain contingency, like a home of sale contingency, but now that was gone. But I'm assuming, with the market right now, a lot of buyers are just coming in low. And that's kind of what your strategy should be in a declining market where it's more of a buyer's market. Just throw in an offer and see what happens. Just know that there is risk in doing that because you might lose that house. If you really like it, just like this, another offer could come in out of nowhere. And I always tell my clients that all the time. I was like, listen, don't drag your feet. Don't wait 3 days because that 3 days opens up a lot of time for people to go and look at the property. You never know who's looking at it. You never know who's already seen it. And you never know who is ready to write on that property. And so you don't want to find yourself in competition. So what I always say is, if you like the property, let's go after it now. Let's try to get our offer in before anything else comes in, and let's try to get a deal.
So with this one, there was another offer, and you said to the listing agent, hey, just send me a counter. At what point, if you're in that situation and the listing agent says, hey, there's another offer, at what point are you just saying to that other agent, you know what? We submitted a solid offer. Like, you should take ours. Like, we're not going to adjust. Like, if that other offer is so good, why don't you just go? Like, at what point are you calling their bluff? I guess is what I'm going on.
When the client tells me to, right? Call their bluff. I'll call the bluff whenever you want me to. You just have to tell me that that's the way you want to go, because you never want to do that when the client's like kind of waiting there and they're excited about it and you say the wrong thing. You could blow up their deal and they don't get it. Then you've just totally screwed up the deal and your reputation and everything else. So I always wait and I say, hey, client, where are you in this process? Is this your best offer? If that's the case, then I say, well, if you got a better offer, just counter us, but we wrote you a solid offer.
But there's also intuition, right? Like, agents have reputations, brokerages have reputations. Sure. There's a lot of agents that we've worked with in the past. And, you can tell a lot from maybe not so much body language because we're on the phones, but inflection and confidence in voice and shaky voice. So, I mean, there's had to be scenarios where the other agent is like, yeah, we definitely have, another offer, when clearly they don't. So I'm trying to find that middle ground of like, all right, when are you like, how blatant does a listing agent have to be in lying where you're just like standing your feet in the ground?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I just trust people. I believe that people are telling me the truth, but there's definitely been instances where I've put my feet firmly in the ground and I lost. But then there's other instances where it happens. So every deal is different. Every agent that you're dealing with is different. Sometimes you talk to an agent and they'll give you a lot of detail, a lot of information that maybe they shouldn't be giving you. And just like that, inflection, experience, there's so many things that go along with a deal. I've been doing this 19 years. I can kind of tell when a real estate agent is inexperienced. Naturally, I'll guide them in the right direction if they need help, but at the same time, I'm going to take advantage of that for my clients to try to get them the best deal that I can. And there's agencies that that you can kind of do that with as well. It's just part of the game. You got to play the game, and you're trying to win for your client. You're going to do everything that you can to try to get that house at the best deal that you can. But you got to be careful, because you just never know which way that's going to go. You never know who's right and who's not. So to pull this back to the UK thing, maybe there's a lot of speculate or just people being taken advantage of in those, because there's no representation on the other side.
Well, I know you're a professional real estate agent, and you're a very
Matt.
trusting person, but we both know where real estate agents rank in terms of the public trusting them. It's literally car salesmen and then estate agents. So without being a professional real estate agent, without having the knowledge of 20 plus years in the industry, and you're just a consumer coming directly to the listing agent, there's no way that you can be as trustful in that scenario compared to your current scenario.
Yeah, because listen, that listing agent is not working for you.
You got to have your guard up.
You have to have your guard up. If you're talking directly to a listing agent, no matter where you are, UK or US, they are not representing you. They are representing the seller. They only represent one party in that transaction most of the time. And so you have to be wary of the information that they're telling you. And so they could be saying, oh, I want you to use XYZ lender, but they might be getting some sort of benefit from that lender. They could be telling you the same thing for a title company or whatever, especially in the UK. Here, there's ways around RESPA that I've found, and I'm not going to say that, but there are different things that title agencies do, or things like that, where you could earn money based on a different scenario, but I won't get into that. But you have to be careful with who you're talking to, because you give information out and you're just through an open house and you're talking and, oh, I love this place, and you're giving way too much information. You have to be careful, because once it comes to negotiations and you've said things to that listing agent, and say you are represented by a buyer agent, but you've just talked a lot in that open house, I've used that to my advantage. I know who you are. You're coming in and writing on my place. You've already told me a little too much, and now I know I can counter you and get a better deal.
When I read articles like this, my concern is that the buyer, or the person taking this advice, is seeing the agent as the opposition.
Yeah.
Where I'm thinking, if you want to get a deal done, and if you want to work with the listing agent, you need the listing agent to be on your side. So when it's saying, hey, don't use their recommended broker, hey, don't use their title company, well, if their title company is going to make your offer look stronger, cost you maybe $500 extra, or maybe even the same, and obviously you're doing your due diligence on the title company, you're doing your due diligence on the mortgage broker, but then what is that agent going to say to the seller? They're going to say, hey, this is a buyer I just found. He or she's good to go. They're using my title company. They're using my mortgage company. Real estate in the UK is just as competitive in the United States. So, the difference between using one title company and using another title company is like raising your offer like $1,000 or £500 or whatever. So I'm of the mindset of what's going to get the deal done. Hey, I'm all for not giving them my real email address or my primary address, or, hey, I'm not going to share with you my entire budget. But if you're telling me there's ways where I can get on the listing agent side, that's something I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It all depends on the market. If it's a really hot market, you want to do everything you can to secure that house. So find out who that title company is. For us, it's all about communication. When we're dealing with different agencies, we're calling that listing agent to find out, hey, what does that seller want, right? And so if they want a certain title company, for whatever reason it is, I'm going to give it to them. If they want a lender, I'll try to give it to them. Lending is a little bit difficult because their rates change from company to company. You got to be careful on what that lender is. But I understand when agents say, I want you to use this particular company, because there are a lot of companies out there that are slow in processes. They have reputations for not closing loans on time. They put people in bad situations. That is why we recommend lenders. As a real estate agent, I want to know that this deal is going to close on time, that there's going to be no delays, because think about the delay. If you delay in anything as far as that contract goes, think about who you put in that chain. You put them all at risk. So the seller of that property now is going to buy something else. oh, we're delayed 5 days because the lender can't do it. That is the worst excuse ever. If you don't have a lender that can close in 20 days, then go find a new lender. Yeah, you can get better rates for the guy that can close 45 days from now, maybe. But like, trust me when I say this, it's so much more of a pain, right? They're always, and people tell me that. They're like, man, had I known. People have tried their own lender, and then like a little while through, they're like, this is horrible. I should switch to yours. They switch to mine, boom, done in 15 days, and we're rolling. So there are benefits when we tell you to use certain people. We, as Matt and I, tell you for a good reason, because we use them over and over again, because their processes are great, their rates are great, and we know as real estate agents, when you're sitting on that other side of the table, we're closing the deal, right? That's what you want to know. You want to have that security. And I think that was where I would trust in an agent in a lot of regards, especially in one of these situations where you're competitive.
Well said.
Thank you.
Some key differences between the UK and US, but I think good information no matter what side of the pond you're on.
I agree. It's interesting to see a different country not using buyer agency. And, I believe in buyer agency. I've always believed in, I'm an old school guy. I've been, I was here before you had to sign a buyer broker agreement, and there was this thing called procuring cause, and you had to kind of figure out, oh, wait, did you represent me or did you represent me? It was crazy. So now that there is a definitive, hey, here's a buyer agent agreement, you sign it and I represent you. I'm representing you as the buyer, and I'm going to have your interests involved because I do this every day. I know how to negotiate these things. I know what values are. I know all of these things. I know lenders. There's benefits to that, right? In anything that you do, in any profession that you use, you're going to use a good doctor, whatever. So I believe in the benefits of a buyer agency agreement and buyer representation. And I think that if it goes the seller route and only the seller represents the seller's agent only represents the seller, you're going to see this stuff come up. Don't trust, don't trust, don't trust. You don't want to be in that situation.
Take note, UK.
Yeah.
Just one more thing,
you
America.
Get that buyer agency.
One more thing America does better than the UK.
That's right. There's a lot.
Buyer agency agreement.
Including showers.
Showers.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. This comes to us from Pacaso. 25 best places for a second home in 2023.
Cool.
Shawn, Pacaso, the people want to know, what is Pacaso? So Pacaso is not, I'm going to use a T word, Pacaso is not a timeshare. Hard stop. It's definitely not a timeshare.
Yeah.
It is buying a second property at 1/8 of the purchase price. So you are an owner in a share of an LLC that owns an uberly nice property in a vacation destination, and you have rights and whatnot, and you can reserve weekends, and if you need to sell it, you can sell it. It's essentially co-ownership. Definitely not a timeshare, Shawn.
Nothing like one.
Nothing like one. So Pacaso came out with an article, 25 best places for a second home in 2023. Second homes have been hot, very recently,
Yeah.
In terms of short-term rentals, in terms of people getting out of the city, in terms of people saying, hey, maybe I can, forget about the city home and turn this into my real home. So let's take a look at some of the areas. Now, the list is compiled by their median home sales price. So some of the least expensive places are Whitewater, Wisconsin, Savannah, Georgia, Hudson Valley, New York, Bay Harbor, Michigan, and Gulf Shores, ranging anywhere from $258,000 in Whitewater as a median home sales price, up to $430,000 for Gulf Shores. On the more expensive side, these are popular second home cities. We have Scottsdale, Arizona, the Florida Keys, the Keys in Florida, Maui, Vail, and Park City coming in at 1.72. So, on the map, we have a clear dividing line between, those cities on the western part of the states and those cities on the eastern parts of the states. And I also kind of wanted to get into Pacaso a little bit because I think the short-term rental, and I think if you talk to someone and we sat down with someone from Pacaso, they're like, hey, listen, we're not a short-term rental. Okay, what are you? We're not a timeshare. We're not this. We're not that. Well, there's something, and I think municipalities are trying to figure out what Pacaso is because people don't live there full time. Okay, it sounds like an Airbnb.
Right.
It's owned by an LLC. Okay, sounds like an Airbnb. So, Airbnbs and short-term rentals are categorically like destroying parts of cities.
Yeah.
It's gotten to that point, and Airbnb will make you think that, oh, it's just supply and demand and this is natural, and it's really not, when you just have like local apartments being converted into, extreme short-term rental opportunities. But, a lot of these places, the housing inventory was kind of built for some sort of vacation rental opportunity. And if, more people can enjoy, one property instead of, I guess, these people, if 8 people go in on one property compared to 8 people buying 8 different properties, maybe that's helping out the short-term, rental market and the second home market. So when you're, looking at this list that ranges from 258,000 in Wisconsin all the way up to, 1.7 million, what comes to mind?
First of all, Park City, I had no idea. 1.7, highest in the United States, 1.72 million for, that's...
Well, I don't know if it's the highest, but it's
the median highest.
The highest of this best list.
I would just say that I didn't realize that Park City was such a luxury and, high luxury side of real estate for that regard for a second home. What I'll say about Pacaso is, you and I talked to one of the people at Pacaso at one of these events, and it was eye-opening. It was kind of neat in the regard. I'm like, man, I would love to be able to do this, because if you think about it, you want a second home, but you're not going to use it all the time, especially in, off months, things like that. But how do you afford something that you can't really afford, but you want to, And this is the way to do it. The downside of Pacaso is, when I saw the price and I was like, okay, $800,000. All right, divided by this. Okay, you come up with, say, $150,000. No. Wrong, my friend. You got to come up with $800,000 to enjoy these luxury properties, right? So they're not buying something like that's $800,000 and you get 8 people in and you all spend $100,000. That for me would be great, even if it was 200, something like that. But we're talking $800,000 at pretty much a starting point for these things. And so you're seeing that the houses are completely amazing on these lists, right? So
I think that would be a benefit. If someone from Pacaso was listening, they'd be like, yeah, that's the point. We are going into Park City. We are going into Vail, places where, your $800,000 doesn't go too far. Now, all of a sudden, you can literally own a property. I think that you're speaking exactly.
I probably am.
You are the clientele.
I'm probably mad in the fact that I would want to pay cash, and I wouldn't be able to pay cash for the. But
why would you want to pay cash?
I don't know, just for a second home kind of thing, when you're thinking about like payments and things like that. Or these luxury people, they're probably, well, especially right now, you're probably paying about 8% interest. So maybe your cash is better used somewhere else, or maybe it's better.
They have limited time offer financing on select homes as low as 3.95%.
Sold.
So, Shawn, I'm confused. You're making assumptions on the percentage. You're saying something about buying this all cash. They've broken it down, and now they have the Airbnb-esque type of categories with, hey, if you want to be in a city, or hey, if you want to be on a boating area, or hey, you want to be by a beach, or by a pool, or in the mountains. So they're making it easy for you.
Yeah. No, what I'll say, I guess, is this is for a different buyer than me, I would say. Okay. So when I'm thinking of an Airbnb or buying a second place, I'm thinking I'm not buying that place and not renting it out because I have to, right? So this type of thing is for people that do not have to rent that out. They have the financial ability to say, all right, I'm going to invest $500,000-$600,000 into this, knowing that I'm only getting a partial ownership and partial time to share there. And so that's what I mean, is it's a different buyer than my mindset at this point in the game, because I'm looking for something maybe in that $500,000 to $800,000 range that I can buy and then rent out for a portion of time, use it for a portion of time, that kind of thing. So I don't know that if you own a share of this, that you can actually rent out your share of that portion, right? I don't know that.
Well, if you want an authoritarian way of managing this where you're in control, I don't think Pacaso is
Correct.
right for you unless you can convince the other 7 shareholders that you all want to do the same thing.
Yep.
No, I don't know the ins and outs of Pacaso. I don't think this is the video to go through the pros and the cons, but one of the biggest buzzwords of the 2022 real estate market as we're coming to the end of the year is fractional ownership. How can we get into a $10 million Vail property for $2.2 million, or how can you get into $1 million property for $300,000, or my math's probably way off, but whether it's fractional ownership where you actually own the property like Pacaso, or investing in second home purchases like an Arrived Homes, which is a startup company that we mentioned a few months ago. Fractional ownership is on the rise, and I know we're kind of getting away from the list here, and I think it's important to see what'll happen. Put a flag in the ground for this episode, because Pacaso's got all the money in the world. They're buying in some of the best parts of the country, and they're almost infiltrating communities like a Park City, like a Vail, that if I'm living in Park City, I'm like, well, we don't have institutional investors, that can afford to come in and do dynamic pricing on Airbnb and to, rent this out. Well, now that, all these, people have pulled their money together, that's coming to these markets very soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's fractional ownership is a big buzzword this year. I just don't know. I mean, again, these are high price places, and you're right. I mean, like, the one thing you'll think about is this was in the rise of the high market, right? This was in the rise of prices booming and everything was going good. And Pacaso just bought a bunch of properties, high end properties, maybe at the top of the market. Maybe these people just bought in and now these property values are coming down. So again, what I'll just say is preface this with real estate is an investment. Investments can go up, investments can go down. Ultra luxury properties seem, for a while, they were just super hot. They were selling like crazy. And so there is that tendency that they could come down. And so just know that your investment could be less than what it was, a year or 2 years ago. But if you want into these things and you're into these and you can get in for, a fractional ownership, this one's amazing. All right. So I'm in on this.
Yeah. So I just pulled up Bacana, which is the least expensive Pacaso property, $285,000.
Yeah.
It's in Palm Springs. There's one share left. So if you're watching, go out and scoop it up before it gets taken. But, you see the green backyard, the outdoor living, the pool. You got to have a pool in Palm Springs. And, it's a 5-bedroom, 5-bath place in Palm Springs. People love Palm Springs. Have you been to Palm Springs?
I have not.
People love Palm Springs. I was driving, through 29 Palms, and the second you enter like Palm Springs proper, things start to turn green.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything else a desert, and then you come into Palm Springs and things are green. So I don't know.
Cool stuff. Yeah, there's options on the Pacaso. Check out Pacaso. What's the web address? It's just Pacaso.com.
Pacaso.com.
Check it out. It's actually a really cool. It might be something that you could look into if you're not willing to purchase the whole home, or you want something ultra luxury that you don't think you can afford. Well, you could afford a fractional side of it and utilize it for when you want to.
Talk about cities in the United States that are getting decimated by short-term rentals, and we'll touch on this and move on. Palm Springs, I believe the regulations are that you're only allowed to have 36 bookings per year. Wow. So it's not 36 nights, right? Because like if you have one booking for a month, that's goals right there. So, you put in a minimum night stay of 4 or 5 nights and you get, a couple bookings per month. But, Palm Springs, if you look at the Zillow history of some of the houses that have sold in short-term rental markets where short-term rentals are possible, you've seen insane spikes with the recent Zillow sales.
That's a really good point. Whenever you're purchasing, wherever you're purchasing, if you are doing it for the purpose of renting these places out, there are restrictions in certain areas. And you'd think that, when you're buying in Florida and you're buying close to the beach, that you would be allowed to rent this out per week, per whatever. But I know I've talked to people that invested in Florida, and When you're outside of the zone that you can rent it as much as you want, the values decrease a lot. When you're inside those zones where you can weekly rent or, even shorter, the values have spiked. And so just know that every city could have these restrictions on them. And before you press that button to say, I'm buying it, know what you actually can do. I had a friend that purchased something out in Winchester, out a ways, and found out that they could not Airbnb it because there was a restriction with the, I don't know if it was an HOA or what it was. It was a county restriction.
No, it's a county restriction.
It was a county restriction. And they didn't realize it. So they bought this place and now they have to monthly rent it. Whereas their income for a weekly rental or whatever it was going to be a lot more. And so now they're biting the bullet.
That's step one, though, right?
It is.
Like, I don't really, woe is me.
I
but
didn't represent. So, I mean, I don't go that far out.
One of my friends is renting out their spot in Arlington on Airbnb. I was like, what'd you think about the Airbnb restrictions? They were like, what? Like, you didn't look up the regulations? Maybe you should look into that as the first step. All right, let's move on to in or out, whether Shawn Battle is in or out on 3 different properties across the world.
Cool.
Number 1, Cinderella Castle for sale. Has a prestigious backstory and is stunning. Take a look, Shawn. This residence is listed for sale for $1.649 million in Irvington, New York, which is just about 25 miles north of Manhattan. So we're not talking about, Canada. We're not talking about, Syracuse.
Yeah.
We're talking about 25 miles outside of New York City. You get 5 beds, 5.5 bathrooms, $1.65 million. I read the history on it. To be honest, it was kind of boring, right? So Cinderella, it just looks like, it looks like Cinderella. And, any house that was built in 1929 is going to have some sort of history. What I think is cool is like the architecture, the stained glass, the water features, the historical details that they've saved. But I don't know if it has like a fascinating history to it. They're trying to sell me on the history, but I'm like, in Arlington, they're always trying to get things designated historic, and it's like, really, like, this is a stretch of what you're trying to say is historic. Like, they're saying the home would welcome someone from the Carol Burnett show. So maybe in like 1950, that was cool. Mm-hmm. It also hosted A-list celebrity guests, including, let me know if you know these people, Shirley Jones, Jack Cassidy, along with their son, singer Shawn Cassidy. I guess that's the Partridge Family stars David Cassidy's younger half brother. Like, how much of a stretch is that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big show back in the day, before your time.
Yeah,
and
the stars younger half, like a half brother.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well,
like,
who cares? I would say for the most part, usually with castles, I'm pretty out. I just think they're gaudy looking. But this has, since it was built in the 20s, it does have that authentic kind of Victorian feel to it, right? And that outdoor picture that you showed looks really cool.
Are you in on an old house?
I think I'm in on this. I like it. I don't care about the history. I don't care about the Partridge Family, anything like that. I like the look of this. Yeah, there's old features. Look at that, a pool. I just won. I scored.
You got
a
pool
too. Yeah, a hot tub. I love it. It does have this cool little feel to it. It's, it's not your gaudy like castle that somebody just built that they're trying, that they've tried to do in different places. It's a cool kind of look that you could pass off as like something historic, And so for that reason, I am in, Matt. I'm buying it.
Okay. I'm in on the castle too, without a doubt. They just dropped their price $100,000,
right,
which makes me think that 1.65 is probably still overpriced. But I mean, you're getting 3,500 square feet. You know what? For 5 bedrooms and a castle,
25 minutes or miles outside of New York City. I think that's awesome.
5 bedrooms and a castle. I kind of expect more than 3,500 square feet. Just being honest.
All right.
Like,
Yep, you're right.
I need my castle. Like, at what point is it just? Yeah. At what point is it a castle? Maybe because of the way it looks. I need a castle that's bigger than 3,500 square feet. But I'm in on the castle too.
I'm in.
Maybe we'll go half and maybe we can Pacaso the castle.
Let's Pacaso it.
Pacaso the castle.
That's a great idea, Matt.
Divide it in 2. All right. Next, in or out, Shawn. This comes to us from Upworthy. 28-year-old buys cruise ship apartment because it's less than renting and he can see the world. Shawn, let me set this up to you. So,
wow.
A 28-year-old Austin Wells of San Diego told CNBC that he can make it happen because It's cheaper than living onshore in Southern California, and he gets to see the world. He says, the thing that most excites me is I don't have to upend my daily routine in order to see the world. So he is purchasing an apartment. It is a 12-year lease on the ship for $300,000. That comes to about $2,100 a month if he didn't have to take out a loan. By comparison, apartments in San Diego cost more than $2,100 a month. The ship charges an additional $2,100 a month for all-inclusive services like food and drink and whatnot. So for $4,200 a month, he can essentially be living, an all expenses paid life. Shawn, what are your thoughts on in or out for a leased apartment that he bought for $300,000 on a cruise ship?
That is a really cool idea. Number one, I would probably look into the laws of that to see if I get tired of this, can I sublet?
So he can't.
Out?
So apparently he can. He did a nice little interview here. Apparently it's just like owning a condo, allegedly.
I'll tell you what, it could be a really good investment, honestly. I mean, how much is a cruise per week? He could make some cash on this. I think that you have to have a job that will allow you to travel the world.
Oh, he does. He works at Meta. Have you seen these videos where it's like a day in the life of my job at Meta?
Oh my
And they're just like ordering lattes and going to bar class and then walking their Pomeranian. And it's like, what do you do at Meta?
Yeah. Wow. Maybe we're doing the wrong thing here.
Well,
that's amazing. So he has the ability to do that. He better, they're going to have internet and Wi-Fi, everything on there. So you got $4,200 a month. It's not 21, it's 42, but all other expenses are paid there, right? So you have all your food. Think about how much you're spending in food right now. And the fact that you have somebody making it for you is key. And the fact that you don't really have any waste, right? How many times you go to the grocery store and you buy all this stuff and you're like, I throw half of it away because I don't even cook it. You forget about it, whatever it is. This guy, let's go to the cafeteria. Let's eat. Let's go to the pool, hang out. I'll work by the pool. Go see the world. Amazing idea. If your goal is to see the world, what a better way to do it. I love the idea. If I was single and didn't have a care in the world and worked for Meta, I think I'd be in on this. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I think I would because listen, yeah, it's a lease. But that lease is also, you can make money off that lease. You could make a lot of money off that lease. So if you ever get tired of it, all right, well, I'll just rent it out. And you know what? I could probably rent it a little less than what the ship's doing and probably still make money.
So you mentioned the ship. Shawn, he purchased an apartment on MV Narrative, which is currently being built in Croatia and set sail in 2025 in 3 years. So the 28-year-old's going to be 31. So you got to hope in the next 3 years that your situation isn't changing.
Yeah.
That's a big bet. That's a $300,000 bet that you're not going to have a miss cruise, that wants to maybe hang out.
Fired by
on
Meta.
land.
What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Right? So you either got to resell that lease or you have to. Yeah. I wonder how many leases they're doing on this building. On the ship. Is that normal? I've never heard of that before.
I'm not sure. I'm out on buying. I'm out on the premise that it's less than renting. So allegedly he says it's less than renting. You're buying, a 12-year lease for $300,000. I don't understand how that's going to be less than renting where you can just get out after 1 year. Now, I'm out on this. What I would be in on is if I was 28 again, or maybe like mid-20s and, worked remotely, if I did it for a year. Like, I don't want to be committed for like a, whatever. And he says, I can just get out. But if I did this for a year and just, all right, I can get someone to cook for me. I can get someone to clean for me. I have my gym. I have my entertainment. I have my food. I don't know what the social scene is like.
Yeah, because it's very revolving. Right? Mm-hmm. You're going to meet somebody for a week and then they're gone. What if you really like that person?
But maybe there's other people that are also leasing it.
Yeah. And if that's the case, that could be cool. It's like just a floating condo. I don't know. It's neat. I think it would get old after a while, It would get old.
Now, you're buying this. What's the resale value like? Can you sell a lease? I guess you're selling a lease.
You could totally.
You're going to tell me that this lease is going to go up in value?
Yeah, it could. Why not? Because everything's getting more expensive. If you lock in for now, you think about in 12 years, what are rental values going to be in 12 years? A lot more. You would think anywhere, pretty much. You factor in inflation, you factor in just the rise of cost of values and everything. Think about 12 years ago what we could have rented this place for. Now what you could rent that for. So I think it's a money gainer for him in the end. Well, pretty cool. Cool idea. I'm in. I'll do it.
He's going for it.
If I'm single, I'm doing it. You think about the possibilities of meeting the right person, right? For a week, you always get new people in. Hey,
have you ever gone on a cruise, like on a big boat?
That might be the downside. No.
So you want to buy it anyway for $300,000 and you've never even gone on a cruise.
Have been on a cruise. Why? Yeah, maybe I need to rethink this decision.
What, do you
I'm
get
already
seasick?
rethinking my decision. I've never been on a cruise. The reason I don't like to be on a cruise is because I feel like they're hoarding you to a certain area. Okay, you got to be back by here. You got to be back by then.
That's a cruise.
But if you want to see the world and you're single, I mean, the only reason I haven't done it is because I feel like I haven't been single in a long time. So
no, So what if you're single and you're 28 and you're working remotely at Meta?
I guess I'm still buying it, Matt.
I'm getting some conflicting answers.
Maybe I made the wrong
you.
decision, but I already pulled the gal. I already said I'm buying it, so I can't come back.
You can't back out.
No, I can't. So now I'm gonna have to think about what he's probably going through. Is all right. How do I rent this thing out? How do I get? And I think he'll do okay. Honestly, I think he'll do fine. Let's check back in with what's his name. We're gonna check back with him in about 5-6 years to see how things are going.
It's kind of cool. Like, I'm just thinking about if I had like a time machine, I could go back and be like 25, just go on a cruise for an entire year. I don't know how much it would cost, but then just like eat as much as I can and like work out all the time and like work on my business, which I would have to be not on a cruise in order to do. But I like the idea of a year. 12 years, I'm out.
Yeah, that's a long one.
All right, let's move on to our final topic, final house. All aboard, Reimagined railroad building Chugs onto the market in Omaha for $825,000. A building that once housed heating equipment for a nearby Omaha train station is now completely renovated space that's ready for its next chapter. It started at $895. It's now down to $825, and it's kind of got this like work, live type of play to it. It was built in 1930. Tax record says that it's about 3,500 square feet, and it was renovated in 2013. Shawn, are you in or out on this building that used to be part of a train station all the way back in the early 1900s? Shawn, are you in or out on this unit?
So I don't know much about Omaha, Nebraska, but I love the style of this place. Think New York loft style, but in Omaha. So Omaha loft style place. This is, honestly, I'll equate it to the property I just settled right before this. Worcester Mercer Lofts. It's a New York style, high ceilings, cool look inside. I love when in Pittsburgh, I'll bring back my hometown again. They do this to old buildings. They will change the structure. So like even in DC, they'll do this to row houses and things. It's just like using that old brick structure to make it just a cool modern-esque kind of feel, lofty spaces. But also with the metal, the black metal painted, it just looks really cool. For that reason, I'm buying it. I think I'm 3 for 3 today.
3 for 3.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often.
No.
The curb appeal is out of this world. And
it's gorgeous.
If you haven't been to Omaha before, it's actually pretty cool.
You've been?
I was there for the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting in 2019. I was impressed. If you like steak, if you like red meat, it's a good place to go, Omaha Steaks. Really cool outdoor area. Really cool indoor area. It is only one bedroom. You do have 1.5 bathrooms. What I want to know is the train still running, right? Like, are you going to be right next to the Amtrak station?
It is close to Amtrak.
It is. It's cool if it was like a decommissioned train track, but if I got rumbling outside, I mean, yeah, it's part of the charm, but I don't want to be there full time with Amtrak cruising on by.
Yeah, that's really close to the tracks right there. I guess that makes sense. It's an old railroad building. Didn't put that into the
Here's
equation.
your sign.
But it's very close. It looks like you got a parking lot on the other side of your property, but you got trees there. And hopefully the trains are a little slow, but you're probably going to hear that whistle go.
Man, this photographer needs a raise because
Yeah.
you had no idea that it was next to all this.
I had zero idea.
Junk.
They tricked me.
Well, you're already in. You
I'm
can't
already
back
in. I
out
bought it.
now.
You know what? I'll rent it out to trading enthusiasts. They'll love this place.
Hey, there you
go.
go. That could be the move.
Yeah.
You know what? I'd have to go there, but I think I'm kind of in on this.
It's neat. It's a unique place, a unique spot.
I'm starting to realize that I like large spaces that don't have a lot of bedrooms. I just like open spaces.
Yeah, like that church you bought last
like
week.
the church
How's
I
that
bought
church
last
doing, by the way?
Oh man, a lot of costs. No, just kidding. All right, well, we'd love to know whether you are in or out on the train, the boat, and the castle. The train, I was going to say planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
But we got the castle, we got the cruise, and we got the train house.
Cool stuff. Like it.
Let us know in the comments section down below. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already. And for Shawn and myself, until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.